Why isn't it like
The meeting has started recording.
And you need to speak into the mic in order for that one. This will be for questions.
okay?
Picture, oh, there, down there it is.
Yeah,
Yeah, you can make that one. We were trying to talk to all you.
Oh, I'm not that tall. Close.
I said 5'10", 5'11".
6 feet.
Oh, okay. I was close.
Close. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thank God we didn't have snow today. Some places in the state are having snow, I guess. So, guess we lucked out. Mayor Mark Kaczynski, nice to see everybody here, and we'll have a discussion today. I mean, I'll go into some of, just kind of give the background of it, which some of you know, some of you may not know. Have a couple of folks here that were on the steering committee when they went through and looked at the whole background and looked at other towns, visited other facilities. So of course we're talking about a new community/senior center. That's how it all started. I don't know, going back now about 3-4 years ago, I guess. We got some money from the state to do the study and to do some preliminary work on it. We first started, of course, how any project starts in town, if you may or may not know, is through a statement of needs. So our Park and Rec department, along with Commission on the Aging and some other departments in the town too, came up with what we needed, what we thought we needed. Probably the biggest piece of the program that we needed. What are we on? Oh, the guy's standing up over there. Okay. Sorry. So the biggest need I think we all heard about for everyone in town, including our swim team, was an indoor pool would be very nice, right? And that's for everybody, seniors, young folks, swim team, everybody. So that was kind of the first thing. And then from there, as the plan went along, it kind of grew. And the building got to be, I think, about a 70,000 square foot building, I think. Pretty large for a senior community center. In fact, very large, uncharacteristically large, actually, in the end, it turned out to be. We looked at different spots that we the town owned the land, of course, so we wouldn't have to purchase land. We ended up with the lot across the street from the high school. We thought would be the best location, centrally located. We wanted it, as close to downtown as possible. At one point, we looked at, somewhere near the train station, maybe, but kind of crowded there now. So we thought this was the best. This was the best location on Patterson Way. So from there, we had our steering committee. They went out and looked at different facilities throughout Connecticut. They looked at some, community centers, senior centers in different towns. We looked at some YMCAs as well, just to kind of compare. And, I think what we came back with as it went through the process, it went through the council, it went to the Board of Finance. The cost back then, we're going back now 2 or 3 years, was somewhere estimated around 35 to 38 million. That was then. That was before the pandemic, and that was before inflation has taken an ugly turn. So we don't have an estimate now. We can certainly get one, which maybe we'll do. I'm not sure. We want to know what that estimate is. I would think that estimate is well north of 40 million, 45 million, maybe as much as $50 million now for a 72,000 square foot building. Most of the community centers, I'm going to have Tim Grady, who was on the steering committee, talk about, because he actually did all the tours. I've gone to a few places myself, and we looked at options. We've talked about options since this plan came out, shrinking the building. I unfortunately, I think even if we shrink the building now with inflation and construction costs, we're probably still at the original cost of 38 million or 35 to 38 million. Don't know that for sure. And then we looked at one of the other options was the YMCA. And we'll talk about that today. I want to make this a discussion, so we want to answer your questions. So the YMCA, just so you know, just as of last week, I did speak. So the Berlin, of course, the YMCA is in Berlin, right? We have a daycare in McGee School. We have, all different programs from the Y. The New Britain, Berlin, and Meriden Y, they're all one. So, right, they're all led by the same Mr. Benigni, who is our superintendent's brother, actually, runs the YMCA. He's the head of the Y. So they are interested in building a Y in Berlin with an indoor pool. That is their interest. So they're still interested. I checked last week with one of the board of directors, Don Brittman, and he lives in Berlin too. He's interested in doing it. So anyway, that's something we looked at. We looked at Ys, we looked at different community centers. The one that was the closest, and I'm going to let Tim get into these details, was I think the Newtown government-owned Newtown Community Center. Did they have a pool in it, Tim? They had a pool. Okay. No gym, but a pool. Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. And that's one of the things we did. Right. We did look at competing with other gyms as far as a workout gym, but the Newtown one has an indoor pool, no gym. And I think it's about, if I remember, about 35,000 square feet, 30,000, something like that. Yeah, in that range. They, being Newtown, which nobody wants to be Newtown with what they went through, they, I believe, got a $10 million grant from GE, I think. Okay, 15 million to build it, 10 million to operate it. And that's now 3 years old, something like that, right? Yeah. 3 or 4 years. It predates COVID, so it was built before COVID. Even with the $15 million grant and the 10 million to operate it, I think they take $1 million out of it a year out of that grant to operate it. They're in the hole. They're losing money. The $1 million grant does not cover the yearly operating cost of that facility. And plus they had $15 million to build it, which we don't have. And speaking of looking for money to build it, we thought maybe we could get some money from the state. That was a thought. So we met with Senator Lopes, former Representative Abercrombie, Meriden Berlin, and I think Donna Veach had just got elected around that time, so she was part of the discussion. But they both independently, we just said, hey, grant money for Berlin to build this facility. The answer we got was just basically a flat no. And there's no money for that type of project. And, we went into some discussions about it. Their suggestion, this is before we kind of even got into looking at the YMCA, was we said, well, we think the YMCA might be interested. We don't know. What do you guys think about that? These are our state reps, state senator. Yes, 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 yes. Go to the Y, have the Y build it. That's what our state reps told us. And that's when we were asking for funding for this building, even, partial funding, 10 million, 15 million, 5 million. We take anything. So they didn't have any funding for us. They didn't think there would be any available in the near future. So anyway, that's kind of where we sit. Of course, the plan is still there. I mean, personally, I think when after the statement of needs, I think the architect went a little bit crazy with it, made it way too big. I mean, I think at one point we had 3 pools in it. It's probably a little bit over. I mean, there were smaller ones, there was a waiting pool and different things for different groups to use, but I think probably went a little bit out of control. And we also have Sal Bornero here, the chairman of the Board of Finance, and they could talk a little bit more about finances. But the bottom line is, in Berlin, just not to get off topic with this, but the finances are important to talk about. We just are. Well, when I took office, we had inherited about $108 million worth of debt. That didn't include, I think, $5 million we were short in our pension fund as well. So we want to tack that on. So, how much, Tim? Over 10 million. I'm sorry, so I misspoke. So we had $10 million. Right, we had 68,000 in the pension fund, and we needed 10 million. So the old pension fund that we had, which was go on, I don't know, 20 years ago, let's say, there were still the legacy folks that were in the pension fund. And of course, they stayed in the pension fund. And then the new folks that were hired by the town and the police department went to a 401k based plan. But we still owed these folks their pension, right? And when they converted back to the 401k from what I understand, before my time, well before my time, they offered them not only can you get the pension, an annuity each month, I think to get them to agree to go ahead and release the new folks to the 401k, the legacy people that were left in the pension plan could also get a one-time payout as they left the town. Now, I don't know who worked that out, but I've worked, I grew up in Berlin here, raised here, but was in LA and New York, and I was in law enforcement. I never heard of anything like that before. No towns, cities, when you're ready to retire after 25, 30 years, certainly as a police officer, you made a pretty good paycheck, or as a town employee, to pay them a lump sum. I mean, you bankrupt towns by doing that. Well, that's kind of where we were at one point, because we owed $10 million. We had $68,000 in the pension fund. And they hadn't been funded for about 10 years with anything. I think 100,000 a couple of years. But anyway, so that was kind of the situation we had. We've now, thank goodness, we didn't have to bond anything. So we started to pay down the bond, which is $108 million. We're down to $64 million now. The goal is 40 million, which is, we should have that paid off in a couple of years. And that's healthy by our auditors' standards. You should have our budget now is about $100 million between the school budget and the town budget total, all in 100 million, last year's budget. And we should be about, any town that's healthy with finances should be about 40% of that can be bonded debt. So because obviously to do big projects like we're doing an HVAC project for the schools, and thank God we had some COVID money for Willard. We started at Willard. We still have to do Griswold and Hubbard to keep the air quality better. We have to, improve that. Obviously, pre-COVID, we're very cognizant of that fact. The high school and McGee are good, but we're going to have to borrow for that. And there's projects in town we have to borrow, of course, to fund. But we want to keep it at about 40% of our entire budget. We were over our budget, $108 million 8 years ago. Our budget was only 85 million. And then plus the other 10 million. So that's kind of the circumstances. We've been trying to work that down as we go. So just so you understand the situation Berlin's been in. But because we've lowered the debt, because we've paid off most of the pension, most of the folks that are in the old pension plan, I believe there's only 3 people left, 3 or 4, 2 or 3 police officers, I think maybe 1 or 2 town employees, somewhere around there. And of course, when they all left, they all took a lump sum. And they were, some of the lump sums were in excess of $1 million, because usually that would be in the pension fund just to pay their annuity every month, right, for the rest of their lives. But when they take a lump sum, now we're done with it. It's paid off, and we don't have to worry about that payment anymore. But to pay, $1 million plus to folks retiring and not having the money to do it, we did it out of tax money. We didn't have to bond any money, but we got it done. Sometimes I'm not sure how we got it done, but we did. And we're not in that circumstance anymore, which is a good thing. And along the way, we raised our debt, our bond rating from S&P to AAA, which is about the best you're going to get, which means when we do borrow money now, we get the best rate possible. So that's kind of what we worked our way up to. So here we are today. So, we have other projects in town we need to do beside the HVAC. There's bridges that still need repairs, and there's a lot of different things. We're renovating the police station. We just started that. We just got the bids in. That's going to be about a $3 million project. But as you remember, a few years ago, we voted on a new police station. We were at 20 million plus. So to renovate in place where we're at, which is going to give our police department everything they need, it just came in the other day. The bids came in, and I think the Public Building Commission just looked at them, and we're probably going to be around 3 million. And some of that, we do have a unfunded balance. We have unassigned balance, which is basically our savings account. We have, money in there, probably $1 million. We'll use $1 million of that and probably only have to bond a couple million. So we're trying to keep that to a minimum. And obviously the bad thing is that rates have gone up now to borrow money, right? So we're kind of, they're not but because we have a AAA bond rating, we will get the best rate possible. And we've done that right along for a few things we borrowed over the last few years, but we've kept it low. The last 2-3 years, we tried not to borrow anything. So that's where we're at. So anyway, back to this. So, you know, add all that together. I don't know what this will cost, this exact project that we have the plans for. You know, we could send it to a referendum. I'm afraid if we sent it to a referendum, what would happen? I think I pretty much know what would happen in talking to most folks around town. Probably would be a no vote, and that'd be the end of it. So, you know, we have to think about that. I mean, we could maybe lower the size of the building. That's a possibility. That's going to take some time to do that. We have to go through the architect again, and or explore the YMCA, which wants to come here. So, you know, we have some options. We need to look at it. Again, things have changed. Construction costs are up. Borrowing money's up. So we have to look at the whole picture. We don't want to burden the town with that kind of debt. I mean, a $50 million debt, that's our high school debt. We're paying that down too. That's part of the 108 million was the high school, but the other 58 million, I'm not sure what that was for, because things weren't fixed, and you know, that's a whole other story. Anyway, I want to have Tim, if you could talk a little bit about what you did on the committee, what towns you visited, what you saw, what you know, amenities there were in the town buildings, and some of the YMCA facilities that you visited, and just so we have all that kind of same background, and then I think it will open it up to you guys for discussion, questions. What do you think? So, Tim.
I need my hands here.
You need your hands.
All right. Hi, good afternoon. My name's Tim Brady. I'm on the Board of Finance. Like Mark said, this was a project that we started a few years back, and the Board of Finance decided that they needed a member on there, so they elected a member. I was the winner, I guess. So, where to start? We were tasked with looking at different facilities throughout the state, so we would have some kind of an idea as to what we had on paper versus what everybody else was operating with. Oh, I'm sorry. We visited several facilities. There's a list that starts on page 7. You can go through. The ones I went to were Mansfield, Glastonbury, Meriden, Hale Putnam YMCA, and then on my own I went to Southington and Plainville. This was a real learning experience. I mean, I didn't know what we had coming into this, and I had seen the plans, 72,000 square feet. That's a very big building, and it was a really large project. What I started to notice right away is that the facilities we were going to were, I'm going to say, in the 30 to 40,000 square foot ranges that had most of what we were looking for, but nowhere near 72,000 square feet. And a lot of these places we looked at, they served, the Hale Putnam YMCA served 7 towns, 44,000 people. That was a 40,000 square foot facility, one of the bigger ones. So it became apparent, I think, to most of us that, oh, I'm sorry, I'm not used to this, I'm sorry. It became apparent that the facility that we were trying to build in Berlin was really too big for what the town needed. I didn't go to Newtown, but I read the report on Newtown, and that's a community of 30,000 people that had a smaller facility, half the size we were looking to build in Berlin. The other things we were looking at was the effect on mill rates. I mean, that's critical. You build something like this, you have to fund it. If you go to page 16 in this thing, you'll find. Okay, well, you'll get a copy of it all. But on page 16, you'll see a listing of the percentages to bond this project, and then it's broken down into 10, 15, and 20-year increments, and it shows house values to $280,000 house, which kind of flew out the window these days, and a $450,000 house, and the effects on your actual tax rate that you pay every month. Now, when you do a project like this, that's the bonding aspect of it. So you have your bonding rates, and as you look down this chart, it's done in percentages of 4%, 5%, 6%. Well, obviously, since COVID and an election, we've had an election and things have changed. We're in the upper end of these percentages. So when you look at this chart, you're going to be looking at the upper end of what this is going to cost the townspeople to pay back in their tax bill. Above and beyond the bonding is you have the carrying cost of the building itself. That's the operational costs, the day-to-day costs, staffing, equipment, maintenance, supplies, anything you need to operate this building. That number came in to be in the neighborhood of $2.5 million a year, above and beyond the bonding. So you have to figure now how many people have to go to this place, this 72,000 square foot building, and buy a membership and maintain that membership to keep it at least, even if it doesn't make money, it's at least got to make enough money so that you're not dumping it all on the taxpayers. Because a lot of people just aren't going to use this facility. So it's not fair to say everybody's paying for what a quarter of the people are using. So that was something we were keeping in mind with that. And finally, as Mark touched on, another big thing was between when it started before COVID, we were in the $25 to $30 million range to build this. We all know what happened with COVID. The building material prices went crazy. We actually lost 2 years of everything working on this because of what happened with COVID. And we came back around in 2022 and started, to finish some of this stuff up. And by this time, with inflation and everything else, we were looking at a $40+ million project, and that's from the PVC estimates. So now a lot of these things have really escalated in cost and in price. Now, as a member of the Board of Finance, we brought this to the Board of Finance and we took a look at this whole thing. Now, we've had the Board of Finance for 6 years. And in this 6 years, we've been able to bring down this $108 million bonding debt and this $10 million debt for pension plans, which it's not just 10 million. It continually escalates. So every time people get closer to retirement, that number kept growing and we kept having to pay off on the backside of it. So we finally got to the point of $64 million of bonding debt. If we take this project and put it back on, we're going to be right back to where we were. And Berlin had already had a bonding downgrade because of this, which means we have to pay even more money for money that we borrow. So we don't want to start chasing our tail again. The Y became an option as we went and looked at a few Ys and found how nice they run their facilities. They have really nice facilities. The pools are nice. The equipment is nice. They have community rooms. I was really impressed with the Meriden Y. It's 35,000 square foot building, and it's 35,000 square feet. It had pretty much everything the town was looking for: a nice pool. It had a gym area. It actually had an elevated track around the gym. Nice exercise rooms. It really was a nice facility, and it was less than half the size. And this is in Meriden. It was less than half the size we were looking to build right here in Berlin. So I think we got to the point where we realized this was probably too big of a thing to build, and we have to work from there. Unfortunately, things move slowly in government, and we've been a little bit tied up. We have the police station project we've been working on. We have all 3 schools need air conditioners at $5 million a school. So this is all bonding down the road that we have to do. So if you take the 64 million we're at now, and you put this, let's just say 40 million on top of that, we're at $104 million with 3 air conditioning systems that have to be put on schools. We have windows that have to be replaced. We're getting towards the cycle of having to start with the fire trucks again. This is a never-ending thing. I mean, Berlin is a town of 20,000 people. So we have to keep in mind that this is how we have to think. We have to build for 20,000 people. So if we're looking at facilities in Meriden and Newtown and the other one up in Putnam, and they're servicing double the population at half the size, we have to look smaller. And I think that's where we're at with this right now. But I think we're more or less waiting to see what's going to happen with the Y too as well, because they're putting together some numbers for the town, and then we can come back and look at that. But that's pretty much where we're at right now with this.
Thanks, Tim. So there was the Y did give us some information, not a lot. I mean, that would be some of the next steps. We could look at a smaller building. We could get some estimates and see what that would cost the town. And we could see what the Y has to offer. I mean, they came to us. They're very anxious to come to Berlin. I mean, they're here already. They just don't have a facility. So, you know, that's something we need to look at. And Tim touched on something that I think a lot of folks maybe don't understand is that even though it's a town building, because I've heard people say, well, it's a town building, so it won't cost the residents anything. That's completely incorrect. First of all, we heard the tax story. That we already went over that. But also, most of these town buildings have a membership fee as well, just like the Y would have. So it's not free, and you know, that's something that you need to think about. Okay. In the chart, okay, in the pamphlet, which we'll get at. Yeah, the fee those are town buildings. Yeah, so town buildings had the same fees, you know, that you pay the Y, and from what I understand, the YMCA, right? If you're a senior, as most of us are here, I am a senior too. You have the Silver Sneakers program, which I do believe I checked with Don Rittman the other day about that. It does pay the membership fees for that, and if it doesn't for town residents that are seniors, it would be, you know, not to commit to anything, but it'd certainly be much less expensive. You got a carrying cost of this building of $2 million a year. It'd be a lot easier for the folks that want to go there that are seniors. We help them pay those costs because it certainly wouldn't cost $2 million a year. That's just some thoughts we've had how we would, you know, integrate that in, and obviously they did. Yeah. So all the Ys you visited took Silver Sneakers, and I know we've asked the board of directors there from the Y. They do. So, and they would have to go out and fundraise, just the other side, you know, beside the town. If we don't do the town building, the YMCA is interested. They will do their own fundraising. That's what they do. They're a nonprofit. They would build on that same piece of property if it comes to fruition. We would, because they're a nonprofit, we would lease the land to them, probably a 50-year lease at $1 a year. We'd basically give them the land, sitting there doing nothing anyway. And they also talked about perhaps adding some fields in the back there. It's a little wet when you get down to the back there, but they were interested in doing that as well. And, you know, don't forget, building the building and the carrying costs, that's all on the Y. That's not on the town, but we certainly could take advantage of it. So that's just another option. I think we need to explore it. We're going to explore it and get that out to the folks, just like, you know, we're getting all this information out to you, and we'll see where it ends up. We'll also get we'll look to get an estimate on, let's say, 30,000 square foot building with the indoor pool. We want the indoor pool. We definitely want that for everybody. And the other amenities we'll have to see where it comes out, you know. And I'm just, again, just all hypothetically, if we went with a YMCA, let's say they agreed to build that building with the pool, this is not going anywhere. The senior center will remain here. You know, this is not going to go away. We're not taking it away for the Y. This would stay here until sometime we decided maybe not to do it. You know, I don't know. We'd have to see, but we're not going to just take care of this. You know, get rid of this because the Y comes in. I mean, they have certain programs. We have certain programs, but preliminary discussion said they would work with the town and Park and Rec. I mean, these are just options. These are just all hypotheticals. Nothing's decided. We wouldn't decide anything till we get all these numbers in place and all the options we have. And, talk to you guys again, come to council meetings, watch as we discuss it. The Y will make a presentation probably, soon in the next month or two to the council. That'll be on Zoom, and we could have them come to the community center, to the senior center here too, and speak. And, I was talking to a group of young moms, obviously, in town with their small children, and, they're very excited about a YMCA coming to town too, because it services, every age group, right? That's what the Y does. That's what they do best. So it's a thought, another option. We got to decide what to do as a community. So with that, questions? Love to. Yes, first. Yep, we got a mic for you. Just like, let's make a deal.
As I walk around.
So you're not talking about building a new senior center. You're talking about keeping the senior center here and doing a recreational center.
Correct. If that came to pass. Every Y I've been in, I don't know. I've lived in Santa Monica, California. I've lived in Virginia, DC area. Every Y I've gone to, of course they do things for seniors. I don't know where that comes from, but the Meriden Y, if you go to the Meriden Y at noon on a Monday, which I did, it's all seniors there. There's the indoor pool, there's the track, there's programming for them. I don't know where that. I know you folks have been to the YMCA, I'm sure. New Britain, I mean, somewhere, I don't know. I've been to a bunch of Ys, but it's all programming for seniors during the day. I mean, that's what they do, different things. And if they don't have it, that's why we keep this for some of the programs we do here. But they're willing to work with us and integrate their programs. I don't know why you think they don't have programs for seniors. Not the Y in Santa Monica, California, where I lived for a bunch of years. It's all seniors there during the day. I mean, that's who goes there. That's who's not working or in school, or moms with young children. But there is programming, and if it's not as much as we have here, that's why this doesn't go anywhere. And that's what they do in Southington. They have a small senior center. They have a small senior center, and the seniors go to the YMCA in Southington and in Plainville. Plainville is the senior center and the community center for Plainville. They have basketball. They have the pool. It's the YMCA in Plainville. They have no other building that I know of. I'm not sure why you think they don't take care of seniors. But anyway, yes.
Keeping this as a senior center doesn't help those seniors who are walking with one cane or two canes or bent over a walker, trying to walk from that upper parking lot to get down here. We have 9 designated parking spaces. About 5 or 6 of them are handicapped, and the others are for people with mobility problem. This is ridiculous. I was here Monday afternoon playing bridge. We had all the other card players in here playing setback. That parking lot was packed. It was raining. The parking lot was covered with leaves. There was an accident waiting to happen. And it's going to happen here, and the town's going to be sued.
Well, I know Joe Bajorski right. This is technically a Berlin Housing Authority building, I believe, right? I think we lease it back from the Housing Authority. So I know he's looking at some additional parking, and I spoke to him recently. We've spoke over the years about somehow fixing some of the parking here. We're talking about that. It's not something that we're not thinking about and forgetting about. We're trying to work out a plan. He's doing something right here next to the building, apparently, which will add some spots. And we can see in front here how we could add some spots. That would be certainly on the list of things to get done. I understand. But it is being looked at. He's supposedly getting bids on that right now. That's the last thing he told me. It is their building, but the town, obviously we maintain it. We would maintain this too.
I thought that this was supposed to be a senior center and a rec center. Well, it seems to me we're not getting a new senior center. All we are getting is being offered programs that we will pay for if we want to go to them. This is still going to be our senior center, which is less than ideal. We really need a senior center that works for senior people. My experience with the Y has not been good. Everything has cost a lot of money to go there. Also, if your pool's there, you don't get to use them when you want to use them. The swim team is practicing. They're having meets. So it's not ideal to expect seniors to be able to use a pool that is for the Y.
Okay. Other,
Just a thought, what about valet parking? Has that been a consideration?
so somebody could park. Yeah. you could
Right.
park. Yeah. Well, that's a thought. Parking. Yes. Oh. Oh, to change the parking? Okay. Well, he's saying, so, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I certainly understand that, you know, the Berlin Housing Authority, they are a separate entity. They're quasi-government. We do not control them, you know, 100%, obviously. So Tim is saying that there was some pushback, but I know Joe, though, is looking to add some spots. He just told me that a couple of weeks ago, back here somewhere. He was getting some architect to draw it up. What's that? I agree. No, I agree with you. I know parking's an issue here. I mean, yeah, Arosh, the town manager, he's back here.
Just to clarify, hi everyone, I'm Arosh, town manager. Our engineering department designed multiple options. Not Joe, we did it. That will get 12 to 14 spots around here. Now, as the mayor said, they own the building. We can move forward and do it on our own. We have to work with them. So, and the designs and the plans have been given to them, and Joe's supposed to get back to us. I'll stay on top of it, make sure we can at least have 12 to 14 spots somewhere around here with the permitting allowed. So it is moving forward. Probably that's not enough for you, but at least 12 to 14 spots here.
So that, I mean, we are looking at that, and that's on the drawing board. So, or we look at a new small senior center. I don't know, folks, what to tell you. We have to decide what to do as a community. You know, maybe we lower the cost of that building. I mean, we're looking for a combo building, because if we do an indoor pool, to build an indoor pool is probably, out of the cost of the building, probably $4 million just for the pool alone. So we certainly, let's say we made it a Berlin building, we call it the senior center. We've always been talking about senior/community center, right? Because if we're going to spend that kind of money with an indoor pool, we want the swim team to be able to use it. We certainly want the seniors to use it, but it's no different than the Y pool, because the Y pool, there's no swim meets I don't think at noon on a Monday. They're in school, pretty much, I believe, but at least they used to be when I was in school. I don't know, but whatever. But I mean, I'm just throwing this out. We have to figure out what the best thing is for all of us, the whole community. Don't forget, the whole community is paying for it, right? And we want to service all groups if we can, and get the biggest bang for our buck with whatever we end up building, whatever we do. We have to. I mean, things are so expensive. We can't just build for one group. Yeah. Yes.
I just have one question. Where did this 72 million square foot building come from? It sounds like you were set up to fail to start with. Nobody has that size building. Why are we even looking at it?
Well, we're not anymore. We voted it down.
Why were we to start with?
That's how, when it came through Park and Rec, it went through different, I don't know if I think it went to public building for a short period of time, but the what? The committee, yeah, there was a committee that put it together. Quite frankly, what I think, the 2 or 3 times I heard the architect speak, I think he just took it upon himself and made what he made. That's the feeling I got. I think he went overboard with the plans, and perhaps the committee didn't realize it. I don't know. Don't forget, it's a committee of citizens, some town employees. This is what we came up with. I think we all realized once we saw the size and the cost, it wasn't going to work. So we can shrink it, and that's the option. That's another option I'm certainly speaking about. We need to cut it in half, get some costs, We still got the property's there. That's not going anywhere. And then see what it does for us.
Guys, hang on. I'll get
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Yeah. So, just one question I did hear. So the architect cost came out of the $750,000 grant we got from the state. So at least that was 200, 100. We have 300,000 left. We did a little bit else with that money. I don't think that all went to him. A big chunk of it did go to the architect. Yes.
Okay, this gentleman.
Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. Just to finalize my comments, I agree with you totally. We should go back to the architect, scale it down. It should have been done at that point 3 years ago. All right, get the final price on it and then put it out to referendum. I know you said, I don't know, I'm afraid to put it out to referendum. For 30 years, we've been afraid to put it to referendum. Put it to referendum is for once and for all, have the people of the town of Berlin give their thoughts. All right. Couple questions. Mayor, who do you contact at the YMCA? Is it Berlin, New Britain, Meriden? Is it Mr. Benigni from
Mr.
Meriden? Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Benigni, yes. He's the chairman. And there's some board members too that have been involved. Don Brittman, he's on the board. He's in Berlin, yes.
All right. A few of the other people have said, mentioned the statement of needs, when we first brought this project up. And it was the community center with the pool, but it was also the senior center. And it also had to do with bringing the community center out of the library so that the library could use the rest of the library. And I've heard people say about the senior center, being here. We've heard 3 years ago this project was going to be 30 million or whatever. Now it's up to 45, 50 million. What is it going to be when a senior center actually has to be built 10 years down the road? What's the cost of that going to be? And that's why my comment was kind of, instead of the why, making it a community center, senior center. That was my thought. Mr. Grady brought up Meriden. Why? It is a beautiful facility, but speaking for the indoor pool, it's not a competitive team. It's not a competitive pool for the men's and women's swimming and diving teams. So they'd still have to be transported over to Platt High School in Meriden. And the other question I had, Mark, how long did it take us to get from 100 million debt to 64 million in debt?
Took us 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah. And the way that works, obviously it depends on the length of time that some of the bonds were, and some of that was the new high school. And that's why in 2 more years, we're down to 40 million when some of these debts get paid off.
So that's 60 million in about 10 years that we paid off.
Well, plus, don't forget, plus the 10 million for the pension fund too.
Yeah. Good.
So, I mean, it's not easy to, as we all know who have debt, it's not easy to pay down debt sometimes. Don't forget the town keeps incurring debt because there are projects, like we mentioned, that have to get done. And we have to borrow for it.
All right.
Anyway, but
like I said, my final thought is I'd like to see that project, scaled down.
Yeah.
Include the community center, include the senior center, and then put it out to referendum and let the people of Berlin have their say.
Yeah, we can do that.
Hi, Mark. I have 2 questions. Looking at this folder that was handed out on page 8, they're talking about the lease of leasing the land for the Y to build it, and also sale of the land to the Y. That wasn't addressed. What would the difference be of running the Y, the facility, whether or not we own the land or don't own the land? Do we have any control over what the Y is doing there if we continue to own the land? Or is it just better for us to get rid of the land and let the Y do their thing?
Yeah, it's really better for us to keep the land, but don't forget they're looking to do a partnership with us, and obviously if we own the land, it's probably a little bit more we have, invested in their project. I mean,
more saying like the fields that go in and things like that.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, they want to
property.
listen. The Y wants to work with us. You understand, we're working with the Y. We just gave them space in McGee to do a daycare. I mean, that was at the request of the Board of Ed and the superintendent, and it all worked out for the town. And in exchange, they gave us the building in downtown Kensington for the transitional academy. So, I mean, that's how close of a relationship we have with the Y, and it worked out for us wonderfully because now, right, over 18, some of the our students that graduate that need some extra help until I believe they're 22. That's that transitional academy. That was the YMCA building, right? It still is their building. They own it, but in exchange for that academy, which Cromwell is part of it and pays us to have some students there as well, we put the daycare into McGee in a couple. So again, we already have a very close relationship with them, so they're certainly willing to work with us.
Also, if you were planning to put a 72,000 square foot building on this piece of property, if it was going to be able to, hold that much, is there any possibility of the Y building their facility at what you're talking about? They usually build like a 30,000 square foot or whatever. And is there enough property there that the senior center could also be built and the town could own a building on the same piece of property?
Maybe. I mean, let me throw this out there too. That's possible. The other thing, and we forget about, think about Pistol Creek. Now that's come up a couple times. We have a building in Pistol Creek that's empty. It was the clubhouse, right, for the old golf course.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, everybody uses it for walking trails, and I know we have the food pan. There's some things we do with the building, but it's quite frankly sitting there wasting away to nothing. And we've tried to figure out what to do with it. And a lot of the comments I've gotten from folks over the years, the Y is actually interested in that building. That's their first choice. In talking to a lot of people and just trying to get a feel for everybody, we kind of want the Y to be closer to downtown, but I don't know. But that's a building that's there. Maybe we retrofit that as a new community center. It's got all the parking. I don't know, but there's a building we own. That's a pretty nice building, and we were trying to find what to do with it. So that's another option somewhere in the options. We do have some options, which we just have to, try and get together as a community.
So Pistol Creek might be considered for the new senior center even, right?
I mean, that's a possibility. I mean, and I'm trying to think, are there steps going in the front door there? Or not?
There's a ramp as well.
There's ramps, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it certainly has plenty of parking, right? I mean, maybe that's the solution right there. Look at that. See, we all came up with this. Yeah, you got the walking trails, you got the parking lot. I mean, that's always been out there a little bit. That's what the Y wanted that building. But, the Y to me also wants to be closer to town. But anyway, it's something. But some folks have told me, oh, we don't want to drive all the way there. It's Berlin. How far is it? I don't know. We're not driving across New York City here. We're driving across the town. I mean, but if it works, maybe we can get some preliminary plans that don't cost that much. Just see what it will look like as the new senior center, and the town would own it. This could go back to the housing authority could add more housing here, right? If this moved out of here. Just these are some thoughts that we certainly have thought about. Anyway, questions next.
Right.
Yes, sir.
It's evident that we have to look at taking the 70,000 square foot facility down to around 30,000 square feet. So, and working with the Y, it sounds like one of the better options. But number one, when do you plan on having this done, or some type of a timeline to get this done? And when can we have some type of idea when it can move forward? And second of all, it just said, what is actually in the budget now to do any type of an upgrade to the current building that we're in now?
I don't know if there's anything, but is the parking anywhere in the budget? I don't think so. Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Right, it's yeah, I mean, it's a little more difficult with this building just because it is owned by the housing authority, but so I know Joe's working on some spots. That's not a lot of spots. To your ladies' comments, I agree, it's not enough. But as Arosh said, our town manager, right, we've got other plans to add up to 14 spots here. I don't know if it's how much that costs. I don't know if it's worth it if we are looking at a different, facility, but yeah. Right. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah.
Hi,
Tim. Yep.
my name is Ann Gamlin.
Yes.
I have been a resident in Berlin for 80 years. I have some thoughts that I want to help my town. So now we're going to have good discussions. I want to thank the mayor very much for the fact that he is now working with us to consider the things we can do. I appreciate it. And I like all the ideas I got. I like yours. We need ideas. This is not a small town. I don't think 20,000 people is a small town. We are in a very strategic position right here. People forget we're the heart. We're the heart of Connecticut. We have history. I went this morning just out of curiosity onto the website, and I was looking, and I put in the Old Swamp Society. Do you know we are the first residents of this state? We formed this residence in this state in 1705. We have a lot of potential, but we are in danger of being eaten up by the 4 towns that surround us. People drive through here and just keep going. We have misused the opportunities we have on the turnpike. And our history should have been a drawing board. And when I put that in, do you know what I got? I got on the top of it, it said Farmington. And underneath that is the sign in front of the Kensington Congregational Church. And it identifies the Kensington Congregational Church as the Great Swamp Society, or the start of it. How did we happen to lose that piece? I think we need to start finding our identity here. We have good ideas. Everybody here has good ideas. I want to thank you, Mayor Mark, for helping to reduce our debt. You and our wonderful finance board are obviously doing a good job. So thank you. But we need to be creative, and we need to understand that for a town that has 40% of it is basically almost senior. We have to understand that we can do better than what we're doing now. All we need is ideas. We need communication. So I have now joined the Berlin Patch community. I will be giving you some ideas, and you can run with them. You can see me on Berlin Patch.
That's excellent. Thank you. While we're talking about Berlin finding its way and doing well, I've been thinking of this too. Finding our way, we've been doing really well. We have $100 million of private investment in Berlin right now. Okay, over $115 million of private investment. Look at Farmington Avenue. Do you see any vacancies on Farmington Avenue? No. New businesses moving to town, and the businesses, a lot of them are mom and pops, but a lot of them are companies. We have big companies moving to town. We have some more that want to move to town. They're looking for space. We're running out of land, believe it or not, because we've had so much development in the last few years, which is a good and bad thing, I suppose. But we're actually finally, to your point, developing the Berlin Turnpike, which is finally, after growing up here and living here most of my life, I mean, that's always been kind of the joke, right? Berlin Turnpike gets nothing, Newington gets it all, and that's how it's been. But that's not the case now. That is not the case now. So perhaps with some of these businesses coming to town and industries that have been here, like Budney's and Tom's Corporation, who are doing very well, expanding their businesses, maybe we can solicit them for some contributions to retrofit Pistol Creek or wherever we look for another building. Anyway, just again, there's a lot of thoughts. We have to explore them all, figure out what the best way is to move forward. I always say the job of the council, the Board of Finance, those of us that volunteer, is we try and do the most good for the most people. And, you know, I've certainly learned that in 8 years. Not going to please everybody. I learned that the hard way every day sometimes, but do the most good for the most people. That's what we try and do. And I like to think we've, you know, done a lot of good. The town has moved forward and it's been great, but there's always more to do, no doubt. Anyway, next questions. What do we got?
Okay. Just quickly, the question keeps coming up in my head. Why is it that the Y considers this a good business proposition and the town, what is it that the town would have to do to equal what the Y will do and still make money? If it's going to cost us a lot and yet they're willing to put their money in, what's the deal? Something's not adding up here.
Well, I think asking that same question to them, why would you do it when it's going to cost it? I mean, they're going to hope they break even. I mean, they're a nonprofit. I think they would consolidate some of their programs in that building. Is certainly indoor pool would help them with, you know, with membership. I mean, don't forget they make money off the membership fees, and by leasing them the land, they don't have to buy the land to build the building. But well, you know, I guess what we'd have to do, having spent 30 years in the federal government and 16 years on planning and zoning and 8 years as the mayor, for some reason, municipal, state, and federal governments don't do well with making money. We all know that. It's pretty. So the Y, this is what they do. And don't forget, they're going to do fundraising to pay for the building. So we can't do that. You're our fundraising, the taxpayers. So they're going to go get donations to build that building. You know, most of it, they have some money saved already from what they've told me. They're doing very well financially. COVID, it was actually good for them, from what I hear from Mr. Benigni and their board. We met with their finance guy too, briefly, a few months ago. So they financially are able to do it, because that was my concern. Like, just what you said, like, okay, you tell us you could build it, but you build it and then you can't support it. You go out of business, which is why we want to always own the land. We don't want to give them the land, but they're going to raise that money through donations. Most of it, they'll probably borrow some of it, but we can't do that. The town can't raise money. I mean, we could take some donations, I guess, depending upon, you know, we can get donations. Yeah. If we can get them. Don't forget, that's what they do for a living. We could try. But, you know, I don't know if we'd be that successful at it. But anyway, go ahead. What do you think?
Well, somewhere along the line, there's going to be a lot of extra money coming out of some people's pockets to help support the Y being in Berlin versus having it as a town function. So if we got really good at raising funds for different programs or whatever else. I mean, I really think it's an excuse to say that municipal governments are not good at business. We can be. It's the same people.
Municipal government has a different function. I mean, you know, public safety, I mean, the police department, we don't have private sector. Let's face it, we do a lot of things good that are the public sector. We're not so much running businesses. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just not what I saw 30 years in the federal government. I mean, it was law enforcement. That's a specific function, obviously, but that's, you know, part of our town is certainly running our school system, which we're most concerned with. Obviously, we have to fund them and make sure they're a great school system, public education, and our public safety. That's what we do best. I don't know, you know, we hesitate to run businesses. That's not really what we're set up to do, unfortunately, because there are a lot of protections in the system. Like I just can't come in here as the mayor or the town council and say, we're going to do this. A lot of people say, well, why does it move so slowly? We talked about that, right? A few minutes ago. It takes so slow to get through the government process. The reason for that is, the good side of that is, it protects all of us that when we get a new governor, we get a new senator, we get a new president, we get a new mayor, we get a new council, whoever we vote in, they can't just go say, oh, guess what? I don't want this stuff. I'm throwing this out and I'm going to do this. That's why we have all the protections in place, because it's public money. It's your tax money. So we can't just move as quickly as a business can. We can't do it. And that's for a good, it's for a good reason. Sometimes it's a bad result, but it's a good reason to protect us so things move slowly and people do get to say what they want to do with their money. That's the other side of it. That's how I see it, you know, having been in the government for a long time. And I'm not saying their government does great stuff with what they do best, which I don't know about owning, you know, a senior center is always the best, or community center. But anyway, that's all for discussion. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mark. Roger Moss. I am the newest member to the Commission on Aging, but a couple things. One, if you go to the Meriden's Y site on their active older adults, there's no denying that they have programs, but it's usually their fitness programs that are in a downtime when the facility is not being used by younger families and so on. The mission and goal of most Ys is the younger families, not the senior population. And I think the programming that people are talking about here is the socialization programs, the cards, the getting together, the crafty type things. No? Okay, well, you turned around, I wasn't sure.
Up in Berlin.
Yeah.
And we were listening to the same thing when we were growing up. Don't worry about it now. We'll take care of it later. Well, guess what? We're seniors. Okay? Where's our center? But we're worried about the younger people.
So, well,
I hear that. Yes, I know. We do. We all do. Us seniors do.
so the thing is that's interesting is use all of Meriden YMCA amenities, including fitness center, indoor track, pool, group exercise classes, and sauna. Again, it's the socialization programs that seem to be missing from their programs. The newspaper article from May of 2022, New Britain, Berlin YMCA slated to receive more than $1 million in funding for improvements from the state. So as much as they are a private nonprofit doesn't mean they don't make any money. My father retired from the Y after only 9 years of being exec director at the New Britain YMCA. So I grew up in the New Britain Y. He gets a good pension. So they pay their retirees and their executives well. It's not a nonprofit, as in they don't make any money. The question falls into twofold. If we're leasing the property to them and they own the building and there's problems with the building, they're going to have to raise all the funds for it. But if they can't raise the funds, then similar to what happened in Ridgefield, the Y closes their doors overnight and disappears. The daycare that the Y is running at McGee is generating income for the Y. As much as they made improvements to it, their income that they're generating is much higher than what it costs for the renovations. The facility they gave us, we have revenue coming in from the Cromwell students, but no revenue coming in from the Berlin students. Is that correct?
Yeah, other than the town is
correct.
The bill, yes.
Out of the Board of Ed budget.
Correct.
But
correct.
No other income.
Right. And just remember, that's a project that the Board of Ed and the superintendent wanted. So we worked.
No, I understand it's a needed program. And the fact that we have Cromwell coming in to help offset some of those costs is a great bonus.
Yes.
The other thing is that I'm sure the 72,000 square foot building came out of the needs assessment. So as much as we want to say the architect got out of hand, it was based on what that report brought back to him. I mean, I worked in municipal government for 30 years in recreation. So I've done a little of this. I know a little about this. So it's not out of my wheelhouse. But architects don't just haphazardly develop designs what they want. It's based on the client and what they've gotten feedback there. So let's not hold it against them. We are able to raise funds through grants, through other programs as a community. So it's not like we can't go out and get money to help offset costs, which we always, I'm sure, do already. The other thing to keep in mind is that we are renters of this space, that we don't own this space. So at any time, Marjorie Moore, the Housing Authority, thank you, could say, we need that facility back for more rooms, more space, whatever, you need to leave. And that could happen just as quickly as not. So parking is an issue, obviously. Programming space is an issue. But it's, 3 pools is not unheard of because there's 3 different needs. I'm sure one was a diving well, one was a competitive pool, and one was a therapy pool, which has a much different temperature kept at. So as much as when you throw out, the architect designed 3 pools, there was a reason for it, not just because he felt 3 pools was better than 1. 30% of our community are senior age residents. So it's a pretty good size number. And as we all know, we've been paying into programs that we have no one involved with for a long time. So to say for others to pay into a program that they may not use currently is kind of an offset session, point as well. The golf course and that facility, I don't think it would renovate well into a senior center. Just because of the layout. It was made for a clubhouse, and it's very jointed and divided. So I'm not seeing that as a possibility unless you're going to level it and rebuild something. But it needs to be something that needs to be done. I think paying for memberships for seniors would become a lawsuit for anyone who's not a senior, saying you're giving them a benefit that I'm not getting as a taxpayer. So that might take very long time for people that are seniors, that are Berlin residents, to get their membership paid for to a YMCA.
All right. Well, thank you for the thoughts. The one thing I will say, Roger, is that when we went to the statement of needs, it just kept growing and growing and growing. It did. But the architect, we hire him as an expert to help us. The times I heard him speak, he was like a used car salesman. I'm sorry. He just was chomping at the bit to build a 72,000 square foot building. That was my impression, my personal impression. I didn't, get in the way of what we needed to do, but he should be advising us. That's what we pay for. Yeah, we paid him to draw lines on a paper. I get it. But he's built a whole bunch of senior centers, community centers around the state, from what I understand. Help us, tell us maybe, maybe a little bit too big. I don't think we got that direction from him. At least I never heard it as the mayor, but maybe it went to Park and Rec and somewhere else. But that to me, he didn't do us any justice. That's my personal opinion. So I would not use him again to draw the next building. Let's put it that way. That would be my opinion, but the council would vote on that anyway, the whole council. So folks, what do we got? Yes.
I have the mic.
Yes.
Tina Doyle, I'm a resident here. I'm also a senior, and I'm also the senior center director, and I'm also the municipal agent for the elderly for the town of Berlin. So I advocate for our seniors continually, because as many said, I feel that our seniors in the town of Berlin built this community. They were the ones that owned the businesses. They were on the boards and commissions. They've been here paying taxes, and that we should really start listening to our seniors. And as they said, 30% of our population in Berlin is seniors. But my thought is, why we could look at this differently. Why couldn't we build a community center, senior center, and have the Y rent from us and make it profitable to help pay off that building, instead of going the opposite way and making them run the facility and we're at their beck and call? Why don't we reverse it and we build it and let them use our facility and rent it out to them?
Maybe.
I mean, we could see it differently. And also the YMCA is a Christian association. Okay. And all our residents are not Christians. And to me, that deters folks that may be of Jewish or Muslim or whatever religion from feeling comfortable in a building that is run by a Christian association? Would we as a town, if the Jewish Association came and said, hey, I want to build a building and I want you to be a part of it, would we listen to them? Or even a Muslim association? We have to think that this building is for the entire community, no matter what religion, no matter what age. We have to be inclusive. And that's my issue with with the Y. And I think that we're at their leisure or whatever. They're running it. Why wouldn't we as a town be running it? That's just my thoughts.
Thank you, Tina. Appreciate that. Just that last point. I've heard this a few times about the Y. Their history is what it is, but again, the Ys I've been to around the country, because I lived around the country, everybody's welcome. There is no bias that I have seen. Santa Monica, California, you have a mix of every religion, whatever. That's not what they do. That's not their mission anywhere. It's called the Family Y now. But anyway, I don't agree with that part of it. The rest of it is fine, but that's not how they run their. Well, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't know, but I understand that. I understand that, but it's. I don't think that's how. Well, if you want to say it that way, if not every Y is the same. I know the New Britain, Berlin, and Meriden one. I don't think they're that way, because I grew up in the New Britain Y too. I went there all the time. My son went to the Plainville Y all the time because that's the only place he could play basketball. So I don't see anybody in the central Connecticut area, the YMCA's act that way. But that's my experience. What? Yeah. To the Y? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how that, we'd have to talk to them about that. Maybe, if it works. They're all options. We have a million options here. We got to narrow it down and go after the best one, whatever it is. Yeah.
Sorry, she made me stand up, but I just wanted to bring back the points that the mayor had mentioned earlier with the relationship we've had with the YMCA in town already with the daycare at the schools, and that the school wanted them to come in, and they have already built that relationship. They're favorable to how they run programs. And I think either if we build the program, like Tina was suggesting, we can look into that, or we can let the YMCA build it. As a senior, my monies are spent, and I would appreciate not having to expend that extra cost to building that building, but yet I could choose then to participate in programs that I'm most interested in. So I appreciate the mayor coming out today. We have a huge crowd. This definitely demonstrates his interest in seniors of our community, giving us an opportunity to share our concerns and give input. So thank you.
Thank you. So to go forward, what do you want to do? We'll look at, you tell me, because we'll do it on the council. For the smaller building. Correct. That's number one on the list. We'll do that. Smaller building. Yep. We'll get the cost on that. Well, roughly, I don't want to spend a ton of money, but we'll lower, we'll lower the square footage. We'll get somebody to look at that. We can do that. Okay. Number one.
I will not.
What's number two? Ditch the Y. Ditch the Y. So when you open your tax bills in 3 years, just, if I'm still here, don't yell at me. All right. That's all I'm saying, but that's okay. Yeah. No, what else we got? So we're going to shrink. Let's shrink the building. We'll look for grants. You heard from our state senator, our state representatives. Good luck on that. That's from them. That's not from me. They told us forget the grants. That's what they said. I'm not saying we wouldn't try, because we get grants all the time. We do try and get grants for a lot of things, and we will try, no doubt. We will try to get grants, but yeah, I know. Where's yeah, why didn't you give it to Berlin? Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. I did look for it from Joe. He didn't give me anything. So anyway, that's I can explain that story to you forever, but that's okay. And yes. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
I just want to mention that I was on the advisory committee, and the advisory committee was wonderful. They went to a lot of places. They gave us the best of their advice, but there are 20,000 people in Berlin. 7,000 of them are seniors. I think this building is not adequate. I have seen people drive through the parking lot and then drive out because they can't find a place to park. And I think that the Y, in going to those meetings, the superintendent of the Y said their focus is the youth. They do not focus on seniors. So we have the opportunity to, from the high school, have the swim team, be able to have seniors there at a convenient location, not to go down to Pistol Creek, but to have people. We could have our things in the morning. The kids could come in the afternoon for the swim team. And the purpose of this whole project was to bring the community together. So in doing that, we would have the senior center and the community center all under one roof. Now, maybe we have to be a little bit smaller. And the mayor talked about that at another meeting that I was at. But we never had that opportunity to talk to the architect and say, oh, how could we reduce this building so it's not going to be so expensive? I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater here. I think what we should do is maybe take a look at the architect, question the architect again. It was right. It was our statement of need, and he did what was our statement of need. However, if we have to make a little bit of smaller building and we have to go with that, that's okay. But this building is not adequate for seniors. And not only that, but we have the community center that's outgrowing their needs, and so is the library. The library is no longer a library. It's a functional, it's a media center, and they need more room. So to bring the community together, which was the whole start of this, we would have everything under one roof. Do we have to revisit this? Maybe we do. Maybe we have to revisit the price. But it seems to me that the people that are in charge are not in a hurry to look at that. And I said that to you before, Mark. I said, you're talking about maybe we're going to look at this. Maybe we are, but we haven't. So we need to take another look and maybe and just revisit the whole project. And I think that this is important for the community. It will be this community is growing, and you need to have things like this for the people that are moving in. And I think you definitely need to service your seniors. 7,000 seniors. That's a lot of people in town. So I think that we need to talk about this. And I think we just need to visit. And my suggestion to Mark, not as it is now, if we're going to revisit, fine. But I said, then just put it to referendum and let the people decide. Because when I talk to other towns that have done these things, I said, how do you get these things done? And they said, it's with the backing and support of the administration. So we have to look for that. We have to look for the town and what the townspeople want. If you want to have a building like this and a community facility, then we have to vote on that. And that has to go to the referendum and let the people decide, not just a few. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, understand that it will, whether, I mean, I'm in favor of it. I'm a senior myself. So, I mean, I don't know. I've heard people say, oh, Mark, you hate seniors. I guess I hate myself. I don't know. Maybe I do. But anyway, so remember, any project over $5 million goes to referendum. So it will go to referendum no matter who's in charge, no matter what's going on. That's, again, those are the protections of our government, right? Like I explained before. So it will go to referendum, no doubt. So I think from what I've heard, it's great to hear all this, because as the mayor, as a council member, as an elected official from you folks, remember, I'm a volunteer too. I live here, lived here most of my life. I want your input. So many times things we're deciding on the council, I can't get people's input. Nobody comes to the meetings. Nobody wants to tell me anything. The council members, we asked for this. This is great. This is great. This happened. That's why we did it. That's why we talked at the Commission on the Aging meeting. I said, let's get a meeting together. Let's move it forward. Don't forget, it was stalled a little bit because of the pandemic. Didn't help things. So let's shrink the building. Let's see what we can get in the smaller building. From what I've heard, right? That seems to be the consensus of most folks. We'll shrink it down, maybe half, 30,000, whatever. I think the Y is talking about $30,000 facility. That would not cost as much, but we'll see. And then if that looks good to everybody, it will be, whatever it's going to cost, it will go to referendum automatically if we want to do it. Yeah. The time frame? Well, we'll start, as soon as I kind of want to use another architect myself, but if it's cheaper to use him, he's got the original plans. Well, I know he does have experience. I think we need to just make sure he's on a, shorter leash, that we tell him what exactly we want in this smaller building. Obviously the pool is the mainstay, and then what else we need for the seniors, and recognize it is for everyone, right? It's going to be for everyone. So what the young children need, what everybody needs, all age groups, right? That's of course what we're looking for. So we can do that. Yes.
The woman in the purple, raise your hand. You're going to be my last.
Let's do it. Yes. You're going to be the last word. That's good for you.
Hey, Mark, how are you?
Yes, how are you?
I'll talk into the mic. I just wanted to offer some clarification, at least from my recollection. When we asked the town reps at one of the meetings if we could get funding, they said we had to get a shovel in the ground with a program ready to go. They didn't say they wouldn't fund anything. They also said they each have a project that they focus on every year. But they said we need to have a plan together with a shovel to go into the ground, and they would see what they could do. That was number one. I'm just looking. And to everybody's point, we need to speak to the statement of needs, like Barbara said, and like the gentleman said. That's what we're all about, right? From both the community center and for the senior center. It's supposed to be for both, right? And we know how long that this has been here and how long it's taken to get new things. But I think that's the most important thing. And Mr. Berdigni from the Y, when it was asked the question, can you meet the needs of the seniors? And he said no. That's on tape somewhere. I was watching it. So, those are critical needs. Listen, you talk about the pool. I think that's important. I think we need to have something that everybody can take advantage of, just like for the community center, okay? Programs for the kids that a lot of the parents are talking about. They talked about the pool. I think they spoke at the last town council meeting too. But that's just my 2 cents worth. But thank you for coming and offering.
Appreciate that.
All right, Mr. Thurston, and then the wonderful lady in purple shirt. Jackie.
Mayor, you mentioned that government moves at a snail's pace. Would using part of that $300,000 from the grant, would that shorten the amount of time that we could get an architect in to give us an update on the smaller facility?
Yeah, we definitely will use that grant for that. We should be able to, as far as I know. But that's don't forget, after that it's going to go to we have to approve it. Ultimately, it'll go to the referendum, then it'll go to Public Building Commission. There's a lot of steps involved, but to get the plan reduced, that's not going to take that long. So we should know, I would hope, very early next year, January. I don't see why it's not going to take the architect that long to look at the plan and reduce it. Shouldn't anyway. So, and then we'll have a little bit better feel for it. and get a call, rough estimate. We got to get some kind of estimate so we know that we're getting what we want in the building, right? We obviously have different needs for different folks of different age groups. So, but that shouldn't take that long to get to that basic part of it. And then we could move forward from there with a real estimate, which once we have that estimate and public building looks at it, ultimately we could, if it's going to go to a referendum, it's going to be a town building. So hopefully we could shoot for the spring for the referendum with the budget vote. That's what I would think. I don't see why we couldn't get everything together by that time. So, and then that's it. It goes out to bid and, it goes with the rest of the projects. Yes.
Okay, I don't know how much you want to discuss, but the other things.
You got the final word, so
I know.
We got all afternoon. It's okay. I'm here all
The other things people in town are concerned about is whatever happened to Starbucks. That's nothing's ever there.
It's coming.
What happened? Yeah, we keep hearing that.
That's up to them.
Yep. What happened to the pool in East Berlin? Because people are not going to come over to the side of the highway.
Yes.
Right? We should be putting something there, a splash pad or something.
That's what we're looking.
And whatever happened to the senior housing in Percival when you
No,
walked
boy,
away from the closing table with no funds
There's a
and
story.
saying the answer since June is Wells Fargo's not returning phone calls. We
That's
must have had an
quite-
attorney involved. I
That's
would assume.
That's quite a story. So we'll handle that last.
I go
So
to the meetings.
yeah, yes, you go. You hear, and I'm glad you do because I'm glad people have heard that story. It's quite the saga, but which is not a good saga so far. What's the first one thing you said? What's the first thing you said? Oh, Starbucks. They had some delay with their corporation, nothing to do with the town. It is coming. It will be there. I don't know if they've decided yet. One thing I heard was it was going to be Jersey Mike's, but I don't think that's confirmed yet. So I think we're looking to find somebody to go into the other half of that building. But Starbucks is coming as far as I know, but Starbucks does what Starbucks wants to do, unfortunately. Once we approve the zoning, they could go there, they're ready to do it. You see, they put the drive-through in. Huh? Yeah, there was someone told me there was some issue with themselves. It had nothing to do with the town. So, but that's coming. The East Berlin pool. Yes, the East Berlin pool. It's very old and dilapidated. I don't know. I mean, I have to talk to Park and Rec why, but yeah, it's been a capital, but I think we're looking to do a splash pad there is what we're thinking would be. That seems to be popular. So rather than fix the pool, which is a couple $100,000, I think we would, rather probably put that money into a splash pad, keep Percival. The attendance, quite frankly, has not been that good at the East Berlin pool, nor Percival, right? From what I understand. I mean, it's better. I don't know about what it went down. Yeah. Right. And that was part of the problem with that pool. If we're spending all this money to fix it, hiring the staff, and nobody's coming to the pool, that makes no sense. But I think the splash pad seems to be popular with a lot of towns. So I'd rather, we're thinking to put it there, which would be the logical spot. And it would fit there according to, right? We're thinking about the feasibility. We still got to make sure it would work there, but that would be the plan. Keep Percival. And if we get the indoor pool, kind of solves the problem of a second pool, right? And then there's the senior housing. Oh, yes, the senior housing. So years ago in planning and zoning, I remember approving that plan. That goes back now, maybe 8 years. So the first thing we ran into was there was an easement, which nobody found in the title, report. I don't know why it wasn't not found out. So part of the corner of the building on the Knights of Columbus property ran on a state easement because there are some wetlands back there. So that, believe it or not, Joe and I worked together on that for about 1.5 years to get deep to finally let us build on a corner of the easement. That was that first problem. Then funding. So what has happened, federal and state government, all right, and that's who runs housing projects, as far as senior housing, they do not like the word senior anymore. They do not have funding for senior housing. That's from your federal government and your state government, both, not from the town. So we've had a very, very, very difficult time getting financing because Not a lot of developers will just go build senior housing. That's probably going to be our next step. I'll get to that at the end. But so we found, you know, it's all has to do with tax credits. It's very hard to get folks to invest in it, but they don't like calling it. We can't call it senior housing now. Anyway, yes. Yes. Well, I'm going to get to that. So we got through all that. We supposedly, not we, it's the Berlin Housing Authority project. Okay. That's their project. They're in charge of it. So Joe Bajorski said, we got the money. We have $34 million from Wells Fargo Statutory Trust, basically going to invest in that project. He made us have a special town council meeting to approve all the documents for the closing because the town owns the property. Berlin Housing Authority is going to get the property transferred to them upon show me the money. Show the town the money, and we will transfer the property to the Berlin Housing Authority so they could build the public housing. We were not letting go of that title until we had the money because it's town property right now. So at the closing, everything was executed, all done, no money. So like you went to buy your house, right? When you go, right? And you know, all the documents are done with the builder or the past owner and there's no money. There's still no money from that. So, and you know, the first excuse I'm going to have to say, that's what I heard, and that's what the council heard. Wells Fargo, the wire transfer went somewhere else, went to the wrong place. All right, well, you know, I wasn't born yesterday, but that's okay. Maybe for a day or two that happens. $34 million, somebody's probably looking for it if it went the wrong place. You know, it's not $10 out of your account, it's 34 million. So we still really don't have an answer on that. And then the second answer I received, this is in a council meeting on record, we discussed it in public, everyone needs to know this, that supposedly the person in charge of that funding that project for Wells Fargo decided not to do it. So he gave us the name and the email to the town manager, Roche, who's tried to contact him now a few times, no contact. So that's where we sit. I mean, I am fuming about it. I'm not happy at all, as any of you should not be happy. What occurred, I don't know why it occurred. We are certainly looking into it to figure out what occurred, but my personal opinion, well, we have the town attorney. Yeah, well, I mean, he was at the closing. We hired a special closing attorney, which said they never saw anything like that in 30 years happen at a closing of that size. Because you know, the funding is coming if we got that far. Jeff D'Onofrio, the town attorney. And we had another closing attorney too. So anyway, we're looking into that, but there's no money, there's no money. So a recent discussion with Joe at his meeting at the Housing Authority, his Housing Authority board meeting, he told me they had some other financing. Well, anyway, so, you know, if he could find the other financing, that's great. But I think where we are headed with that project is the town will take it over. And I mean, we own the property. We still obviously own the property. We will look to put out a request for proposal to contractors, builders that could build it for us. That's probably what we're going to have to do because we've given Joe ample time. He's worked hard at it, I know, but it has not ended well at the moment, which I don't, you know, it's just that's what it is. So that's what we're probably going to do. We'll try, and the town will try and find a builder to do it. That's just how it is. I mean, there would be no way to know this would be the ending at this point in time, but again, it's not all, and I don't want to put it all on Joe. I mean, this end of it is a strange scenario, which we'll get to the bottom of, but it has changed many times what the state will fund. Because typically you get state and federal funding from the Federal Housing Authority and the local and the state, but like you can't call it senior housing anymore. They won't give you any money. We can call it affordable. Yes, that's the new word, and that's fine. But what that means is it's not all seniors, and that's not what we wanted, right? We want just for seniors. And all towns are going through this. It's not just Berlin. I mean, so they kind of slip and slide and try and get it through. And then unfortunately, there's other folks that are moving in that are not seniors. So they're very specific. And the bad thing is they change every year, whether it's Washington or the state legislature decides on some other way they want to fund things. It's in the housing realm. So that's really been a lot of the delay too. Now, it's not all on Joe. I don't want to push it all on Joe. The last incident, we got to figure out what went wrong. He does too, but you know, we'll figure it out, I'm sure. But I don't think that's going to work. I just don't think we've given it a lot of time to let the housing authority come through. They haven't come through for a lot of different reasons, you know, and the government is a big one, and, you know, the state and federal government with funding, but we got to look for private investors to do it, I think. That's finished now. The one by CLNP there, by Eversource, the new apartments there, those just opened yesterday. That one? By where? Oh, that one. Oh, that's still going to be built. Yeah, those are market rate apartments. Yeah, he's still going to build those, Mr. Orancini. Yes, the apartments there by the dealership. Yeah, those are not affordable. Those are going to be market rate apartments on the Berlin Turnpike by the Acura dealership. The new one that just opened behind Eversource, right? That one just opened yesterday. I mean, yesterday. There's an article in the paper about it today. So there's 30% affordable units in that. There's affordable units. There's a few going in behind the Tyvek building there, you know, by the train tracks. There's a few affordables going to be built there. I think there's a couple affordables in the building above. So, you know, we are trying to get our affordable housing stock up to the 10% that the state wants. But that's different than the senior housing. That's a whole different, you know, program. But it's not easy, folks. Believe me, it's very frustrating. We've done a lot of work to get that project up, and you can't get the financing for it. And a lot of towns, we've had a couple other towns come talk to us. Old Saybrook had the same problem. They kind of slipped and slid through some kind of funding, and they couldn't call it senior. I don't think there's all seniors in it now, but anyway, yes. They don't want to restrict it to senior housing. They don't want that now. That's not the prevailing. I'm with you 100%. Yes, I'm with you. I don't understand it, but that's from the federal government, and because most of the money flows from the federal government, the states kind of, you know, they sort of have to go along with it because they're not going to get all the money really flows from the Federal Housing Authority. They don't want to call it senior. If the town does it ourselves, get our own financing, we can do it. But to get a private developer is expensive, you know, because the way they used to do it, they had tax credits and they had different ways to finance it, which was not on the backs of the town. But I don't know if I just don't think that's going to work. Obviously, we've tried and tried and tried. Not for lack of trying, and that's on Joe's part too. I'm not slamming him for everything. We have worked together. I work with Joe too. We've tried. We've had developers come and go. We've had tax credit investors. They invest in the tax credits. They get a break. They'll fund the project. They get their return on investment with the tax credits, you know, because they're saving money. Nothing seemed to work. But a lot of it has to do with you can't call it senior housing, and we don't want that. That's not what we voted to do, right? That's not what we want for our seniors. Well, that's different. See, that's a different designation, but you don't get the funding for that. That's the problem. That's just private developers. Yeah. Depends on how much taxes you guys want to pay. We can do it all. Just don't yell at us when your tax bill comes out. That's all. I listen, whatever the community votes for. If we go to a referendum with the senior housing project, if it, you know, changes a little bit and the town's going to pay for it, and the community center, you want to vote for $100 million in funding, be my guest. But but time for me to move out of town then, because I know what my tax bill will be. But you know, we will listen. We'll get through it. We have solved all these problems. We'll solve them going forward. I know we can. It's not easy, but we will. Yes. Yeah. South Pistol Creek. Yes, we've thought of that too. I mean, the people that hike there wouldn't be too happy. Just that piece. We've thought of that. We've looked into that. It's a possibility. Actually, the possibility we're looking at is we just bought. So I don't know if you saw that. There was a developer when the town bought Pistol Creek. There was a little piece that got carved out for a developer. Then he was going to put houses there. He was going to put like 13 or 16 houses on acre lots, or maybe there were 2-acre lots. I forget what they were, but it didn't work out. He was a New Jersey developer. He was somehow involved in the old Pistol Creek golf course. I don't really know how we got involved in the whole thing before my time, but so he sued the town because he now came in with a plan to put in 300 units there, like apartments, basically, not the 16 homes, which he had agreed to in a court settlement. So one thing led to another, and we dealt with that for a while. So we won the lawsuit, but to win the lawsuit, we won on part of it, but we decided to buy the land from him. It's, you know, behind the Pistol Creek building. It's up in the back there. So we spent about $1 million to buy that. So the question now is, you know, we have over 2,000 acres of open space in Berlin. Part of it being Pistol Creek, Bicentennial. We have a lot of open space for folks to hike and do passive recreation. Do we sell that piece? Because I know we can get more money for it now, and still zone it as, you know, just single family homes where they were going to be there anyway, and recoup some money. That's a thought. You know, we haven't really got that far in that discussion yet, but because sometimes, you know, we don't need, you know, Berlin owns a lot of land. Some of it is useless to us, and if that's something we could get money for. So maybe that's what we do, and it wouldn't touch the rest of Pistol Creek. We didn't do anything up there anyway. There's really nothing up there, so that's a thought. I mean, that wouldn't get us the whole boat, but it's something. Yeah, no, absolutely. So that's the latest on all that, folks. Thank you so much for coming. All great stuff. Thank you. We'll work on it. We're going to work on that plan. Get it done.